Thank you for joining for this Leadership Talk webinar about volunteer recognition for agriculture organizations. Manitoba Agriculture and Resource Development industry leadership staff are providing free webinars to support agriculture organizations to build their organizational capacity. This content is designed for informational purposes only. The information is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice. Organizations should consult their professional advisors related to specific issues. This webinar will cover the following topics: what recognition is, the value and importance of volunteer recognition, common types of recognition, volunteer recognition plans, which include identifying motivators, choosing appropriate types of recognition, and ensuring it is timely and ongoing. And finally, we will talk about different ways to say thank you. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary online site defines recognition as 1. The act of recognizing, the state of being recognized, and 2. Special notice or attention. The word recognition can be defined in a number of ways. When we consider volunteer recognition, it's a thank you, an acknowledgement of contributions, a special notice or mention, or an expression of appreciation for one's efforts. An article written by Volunteer Manitoba, an organization that promotes and recognizes volunteerism across the province, defines volunteer recognition as the process of acknowledging that everyone makes a contribution and appreciating those efforts. This implies that recognition is not a one-time event, but rather a series of actions that encompasses the volunteer's career with the organization. Imagine for a moment that you are a volunteer for a community organization. It is the end of your banquet and you have enjoyed a locally catered meal at this semi-formal event. 3 volunteers, including yourself, received awards for their efforts throughout the year, and the mayor presented you with a plaque. A brief biography was read as your photo was presented on the big screen. Did this scenario sound familiar? Have you attended a similar event in the past? How did you feel about being presented an award in front of others? If you could change the scenario, would you? What would you change? As you can imagine, there will be a variety of responses to these questions. Individuals have certain preferences when it comes to being thanked or recognized for their efforts. This webinar will discuss the idea that one size does not fit all when choosing ways to recognize volunteers. Most of us would agree without question that recognizing volunteers is important. After all, volunteers are the most important resource that organizations have. Recognizing volunteers ensures that individuals feel that their accomplishments have been acknowledged. It reinforces efforts and is a sign of appreciation for sharing their time and talents. It shows that they are valued by the organization. Recognition can also be considered a volunteer retention tool. When volunteers feel appreciated and important, they are more likely to feel connected to the organization and continue their involvement. The 2013 Volunteer Recognition Study, conducted by Volunteer Canada, an organization that aims to provide national leadership and expertise on volunteerism, found that over 40% of organizations surveyed indicated that they experienced a lack of interest from volunteers in implementing a volunteer recognition program. That statistic might be surprising. However, consider whether this perceived lack of interest is a result of volunteers not wanting any recognition at all, or not wanting to be recognized in the ways that the organization sees fit. Thinking of ways to say thank you to our volunteers is easier than ever. With the assistance of online search engines, social media, and do-it-yourself inspiration websites. We are familiar with formal expressions of appreciation such as banquets, newsletter articles, gifts, and handwritten notes. Likewise, we have probably all been the recipient of informal thank yous, such as a phone call or text message, a cup of coffee, hug, or a handshake. Some of these are ways to publicly recognize volunteers, while others are a way to send the same message in a more personal and private way. It is interesting to note that Volunteer Canada's study found that fewer volunteers wish to be recognized publicly for their volunteer efforts. Rather, close to 70% preferred informal, more personal acts of appreciation that are perceived to be sincere and authentic. As the age of the volunteer increases, the more likely they are to prefer informal recognition. In order to offer meaningful, sincere, and authentic recognition, consider taking a holistic approach by developing a plan for volunteer recognition. Having a comprehensive plan can help ensure that volunteers are appropriately recognized and thanked on an ongoing basis. A plan starts with, first, finding each individual's motivation for volunteering. Then, selecting a type of recognition that matches their motivation to volunteer. And finally, ensuring that recognition is ongoing and timely. Keep in mind that a volunteer recognition plan is not intended to be a time-consuming or make-work project, but rather a tool to make your volunteer recognition efforts as effective as possible. The plan may include larger scale activities, but more likely than not will include a number of smaller actions. Finding the motivation. Volunteer recognition starts at the recruitment stage. When the volunteers join the organization, do some research, have a conversation, and learn their reasons for volunteering. The volunteer recognition study, which was cited earlier, discovered that the top 2 reasons for volunteering are to contribute to the community and to have an opportunity to gain or apply skills and knowledge to a volunteer task. An article written by Volunteer Manitoba highlighted 3 categories of motivators to take action or volunteer with an organization. The first one being achievement, the desire to see the direct results of their work. Number 2 is affiliation, the need for personal interaction in the volunteer experience. And the third one is power, the desire to hold a position of power or have access to information. Once you understand a person's motivation to volunteer, you can learn about their personal preferences for recognition. Volunteer Canada has made available on their website a volunteer recognition tool. This short online questionnaire is designed to allow volunteers to communicate their recognition preferences with just a few clicks of the mouse. When their survey is completed, results are sent directly to the supervisor or staff. With this information, one can start to develop a personalized recognition plan for individual volunteers that is customized to reflect their personalities and level of engagement with the organization. The most appropriate recognition for the individual is the type that matches their motivation for volunteering. If they are motivated by achievement, ensure that they see the direct results of their work. Have those impacted by their work meet the volunteers or write thank you notes. Provide an opportunity for the volunteer to attend events in person or tour a site that's being developed. If they're seeking affiliation, ensure that their position has them working directly with others. Gift them with an article of clothing that features the organization's logo, or provide an opportunity to meet a dignitary or leaders in the organization. If power is their motivator, offer them a title and appropriately keep them informed about happenings within the organization and updates on projects. Be sure to also take into consideration the individual's personality and whether or not they prefer personal or public displays of appreciation. Timing is everything when it comes to meaningful recognition. Provide it often and when it means the most. Consider that a standard monthly email may not have the same impact as a well-timed thank you. For example, make a phone call to the volunteer when you perceive that motivation is needed. Send a note of encouragement during a challenging time. Bring a cake to the next meeting. Don't wait until it's too late to provide recognition. You don't want to be celebrating your volunteers as they walk out the door. But do provide opportunities for feedback, such as an exit interview. This can be perceived as a form of recognition, as their experience and knowledge is being valued. It has become common for individuals to volunteer for specific projects, shorter periods of time, and then move on to another organization. This means that you may not have the luxury of waiting until the year-end banquet or annual general meeting to celebrate their achievements. Be sure to provide volunteers with a sense of accomplishment by showing them the impact of their work during their time with the organization. Volunteers are paid in thank yous, and they can never receive enough pay for their work. There are hundreds of quick and unique ways to say thank you to our volunteers on a regular basis, but consider experiential opportunities as a type of recognition. Clear job descriptions enable volunteers to work more efficiently and effectively, and they tell volunteers that the organization values their time and skills. Aim to match skills, abilities, interests, and passions with the specific task or position to create job satisfaction. Or offer training opportunities as a way to further develop or acquire skills. Provide mentorship opportunities that enable volunteers to learn, teach, or both. And finally, offer flexibility within their role and allow volunteers to venture into new projects of interest. A few thoughts on gifts. When selecting a gift, consider consumables versus dust collectors. If people are limited for space in home or office, give consumable gifts such as flowers, food, or gift certificates. Consider religious or social beliefs. This might include serving appropriate food or drink in an appropriate manner, or avoiding plastic or paper for those who are environmentally minded. And thirdly, support local business. Businesses are often strong supporters of community organizations. Support them by purchasing local products or services. The Volunteer Recognition Survey found that over 80% of organizations feel that the most common barrier encountered around volunteer recognition is not having enough money in the budget to do what they want to do. Yet, what we have learned is that most volunteers appreciate being thanked in person. If we consider the notion that the most effective recognition is often the least expensive, it seems that there is a disconnect between volunteer and organization preferences. A volunteer recognition plan may help keep costs on track by identifying appropriate and effective recognition that may prove to be within budget. In summary, we have looked at the value and importance of recognizing volunteers, the common types of recognition, the importance of having volunteer recognition plans that include identifying motivators, choosing appropriate types of recognition, and ensuring recognition is timely and ongoing. Remember that there are many ways to say thank you, and that they need to be meaningful to your volunteers. Here are some resources that might be of assistance to you. The Volunteer Canada website offers information and tools, such as the Volunteer Recognition Survey tool that was cited earlier. Visit this site to learn more about National Volunteer Week and Volunteer Recognition Awards. You will also find studies and information where you can learn more about volunteers and how they would like to be recognized for their contributions. The Volunteer Manitoba website offers a provincial perspective on volunteerism and information about training sessions available to Manitobans on a variety of organizational development topics. Another resource, Charity Village, is a resource to over 170,000 charitable and nonprofit organizations across Canada. They offer paid job postings and free volunteer and event listings, as well as nonprofit and charitable sector resources and e-learning. This link will take you to their collection of articles on a variety of topics, including volunteer recruitment, engagement, and retention. An additional resource is our government email address. Someone will be available to respond to any questions you may have related to the resources we have. Please feel free to send a message or a question to leadership@gov.mb.ca. Make time to visit our Manitoba Agriculture and Resource Development Industry Leadership webpage at www.gov.mb.ca/agriculture. There, you will find a number of resources, including fact sheets and worksheets, templates, and guidebooks that will help you strengthen your organization. You will also find contact information for rural leadership specialists who are available to work with your ag organization. The website contains a wealth of information related to starting an organization, developing a strategic plan, being a board member, board operations, leading an organization, dissolving an organization. The resources section also contains a number of tools and links that you will find helpful. Thank you for your interest and for viewing this webinar on volunteer recognition in agriculture organizations.